Welcome to Behind the Sports Medicine Podcast, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the evolving world of sports science. I'm Andrew Rizza, an athlete trainer with decades of experience in professional, collegiate, and high school sports.
And I'm Cameron Roth, an orthopedic surgeon and a consultant for the Chicago White Sox.
In each episode, we'll explore the real-world challenges and opportunities facing today's human performance professionals.
Our hands-on experience is transforming sports medicine and breaking barriers through innovation and teamwork.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's Behind the Sports Medicine Podcast. Tonight, we have Charlie Kravitz, good friend of my co-host, Dr. Cameron Roth. They met each other, from my understanding, when Cam was a sophomore at Vanderbilt, and Charlie was a freshman. So, Cam, would you mind introducing your very good friend, Charlie Kravitz?
Of course, absolute honor to introduce my very close friend, Charlie Kravitz. For those of you who don't know him, Charlie is a very prominent ESPN producer, personality on the very well-known Domonique Foxworth Show podcast, former producer for Dan Le Batard on Highly Questionable on ESPN. Charlie is the most knowledgeable person I know about sports, has some of the best opinions and some of the coldest takes ever. But most importantly, he's a great person, one of my closest friends, and it is super fun to have him on to talk and learn from him today. Charlie, what's up?
I am delighted to be here. Just so you know, Andrew, I've been introducing Cam to people as a doctor since he was 20 years old. In multiple situations. Don't worry, we have a doctor here. Cameron is here. It's fine.
Yeah. It's funny because when Cam was in medical school, his first or second year, he would call me or text me and say, Riz, I hurt my wrist. Like, what is it? And he would like send me a picture or call me. I'm like, Cam, you're in medical school. Like, you should know this already. He's like, I haven't gotten to the wrist yet.
Now you're a big wrist and hand guy. Number one wrist and hand guy in Arizona. Many people are
That's
saying
right.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of people are running around saying. So, Charlie, obviously, Riz said we met at school, but you have really, since we graduated, your career has really skyrocketed in terms of sports media and production. Can you just give us a lowdown on where you started, where you were, and how'd you end up where you are now?
Yeah. So, I mean, Cameron knows I wanted to work in sports in some capacity because I'm like probably the biggest, most sports obsessed like dork out there. And I was like, okay, I'm in college. I'm writing my history capstone on economics and baseball. That's as good as an internship. I'll get a job in sports media or working for a sports team. So I graduate college, and it is not the easiest field to get into, which is I was slapped in the face with that for the first like 6 months after college. I was like, met with a lot of no's, a lot of courtesy interviews from like your parents' friends' friends or your friends' friends who get you in the door. I at one point tried to work for got like a courtesy interview to try and work for the Houston Astros and talked to their GM right before they had the first pick in the draft, and they were going to pick Carlos Correa. And in the interview, it's kind of funny now because I think this is actually the front office that got like banned from baseball or suspended from baseball. In retrospect, they're like, "Who would you pick?" And I was like, "Byron Buxton. Absolutely, that's your guy." And I think they looked at me like, "All right, this fucking guy, like not hiring him. We're taking Correa with the first pick and not hiring this guy." So I took a job at a private investigators firm, which is crazy. And I was essentially a research, I was doing like very baseline research. And after like 8 months, I quit that job to be an intern for Ride Home Projects. Ride Home Projects is a production subsidiary for ESPN. Eric Rydholm is like the most venerated sports producer. He came up with PTI, Around the Horn, Highly Questionable, and has produced those shows that have sort of exceeded the quality and like credibility of a lot of sports shows that go on for 20 plus years. And, have become like, Tony and Mike are like your TV grandpas talking about sports. So I took an internship to work on Dan Le Batard's show, and my parents were like, this is sort of nuts, but whatever, it's fine. Like, you're quitting a real job to be an intern there. And the fit was just really, really good. So that Highly Questionable is Dan Le Batard, his dad, Bomani Jones at the time. And when I started my internship there, I thought it was going to be like a 3-month internship. And a lot of what it was is essentially just understanding the internet and the internet sense of humors. And you do a lot of pre-production as an intern, helping build rundowns and show topics that can really hit with Le Batard and his sense of humor. Got hired to be a segment producer about 8 months into an internship that I thought was going to be 3 months. I just never left, just stayed there day after day. And soon after I was hired as a segment producer, the entire staff switched shows to work for Deezus and Miro in New York, which was a late night show produced by Ride Home for Vice initially. And I mean, I'm sure you guys realize this. Anytime there's like a huge vacancy in stuff like this, even though the fact that's 25 years old, it just becomes a vacuum where you can take as much work as you want and you can improve as much as you want. You can just dive into those relationships. So I became the coordinating producer of the show, which is essentially you run the day-to-day operation of the show. You pick the rundown, you plan the topic, you make sure taping goes smoothly. We were post-produced shows, so you make sure you hit your 21:30. You make sure you hit all of your ad obligations and the topics work. And you have, like, I'd write all the jokes for Dan's dad. I'd write a document of that. Eric Ridehelm would go through those, pick the best jokes for Poppy, things like that. And in that time, it's a remote production. So the biggest boost to my career was after, one was getting to know Bomani Jones, who's brilliant, but also he moved on to host his own show. And we did a rotating cast of people who were close to my peers, Mina Kimes, Domonique Foxworth, Pablo Torre, and developing a relationship with those people has led to the springboard of producing Dominique's show, working with Mina full time, seeing what other opportunities could potentially be there for Le Batard as he's launched his new company. So a lot of it was like, I was grinding, but I was just really lucky timing. I showed up when everyone was leaving to work on a different show.
So what aspects of some of those people you worked with do you think made them successful or unique? You said, we always joke that you say Bomani's a quote genius, but obviously he's a very smart guy, very successful, right? So what are some things that you learned from them, or what are some personality aspects or characteristics from those people that you surround yourself with that's made them so unique and successful?
So I think that, like, production, a lot of it is knowing who you're working with and what they need, and being willing to sort of be a chameleon to like fill those needs. Like Bomani, he really just wants to talk sports. He wants to talk, and you never need to worry about him getting stuff wrong or him having wrong opinions or him being unprepared. But he wants a producer that has ideas and can stand up and be like, "Hey, did you think about this aspect X, Y, and Z?" Or like, actually, he wants to just have the conversation before he does the show. Someone like Le Batard has this really sardonic sense of humor where you're ending up picking topics. You don't prep Dan, or you didn't for Highly Questionable. He was doing that on his own. It was after his radio show, but you had to have an understanding of like, here are angles. I can build this straw man, this topic for Dan to tear it down. He wants to counterpunch and tear down this construct that he thinks is stupid, so it becomes a satire of sports media. With someone like Mina, who's just like as good as it comes in football in the industry, I'm never gonna tell her something that she doesn't know about, the Seahawks front four or something like this. But it is something that where I think I could stand up and had credibility. Is like, here are the topics that I think are going to work for the show today. Do you want to change any of them, or this is? But I was a proxy for the viewer, because a lot of what production is, and this is something Eric Ridehelm says, so I'm not totally plagiarizing it. It's a Venn diagram. Like, you have a circle of the audience, you have a circle of the producer, and you have a circle of the talent, and you're looking for that center of the thing that interests all three of you. And I tend to be more of a proxy for the audience. Like, I tend to think like, what's going to pop on the internet, what's going to pop on TV, what's more provocative or going to get something that can be really conversational and have two sides. Like, you don't want it to be a yes no answer where like everyone's going to agree. Like, is Tom Brady good? I know Cam will make the joke about Max Kellerman saying Tom Brady fell off a cliff in like 2017. I did not produce First Take. But you want there to be two-sided questions. Otherwise, you're saying someone up to say something dumb in the format of debate television, which is how you get Tom Brady fell off a cliff when you're debating whether or not he's good. So it's like, can I format questions that are going to show off her expertise and match it with Dan's sense of humor? And a lot of that just becomes very intuitive. And you learn from the longer you produce someone, the more you know their strengths and their weaknesses, and when to hop in, when to feed them a line and the McCurdy in their ear, help them with something that they don't know.
how did we get here? Like, we grew up watching SportsCenter, which was just Stuart Scott doing highlights and saying "booyah," and
Best of all time.
he was amazing. And then we were in college, and that was the beginning of PTI and Around the Horn, and they were pretty playful. But, and now Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've sort of entered the first take times where Skip just, blatantly makes things up and to upset people, and Stephen A. Smith just screams.
Love him though.
Possible. But there's also very intelligent people who you have ended up working with. So how have you seen the transformation of sports media, and where do you think it's going?
So, I mean, like, I think there's two sports media. So first of all, I'll break that. The first part, like how I ended up working with those people, is like, I genuinely just kept the people close who I enjoyed being around. I think it's no different than any other job. Like, those are the content that I like to digest from the ESPN talent people I worked with. Ended up being the people I continued to book to be on Dan's show. So it was very much a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's like, it's hard not to, it's like anything. It's like, oh, I believe in this person. This person's closer to my peer. I'm going to put more effort into developing the shows that they're on, things like that. But where did the fissure in sports media happen? So, Skip and Stephen A. started there on, I think it was on Cold Pizza, and they had a debate segment that was like completely ridiculous, where they would just, debate if LeBron was good, or LeBron versus Jordan, or whatever.
LeBron versus Jordan.
Yeah.
Debate as old as
Cowboys versus whoever. But I think when they looked at the ratings of that, just that segment was like the highest rated thing. I mean, PTI is always the highest rated thing on ESPN, as it should be. They were like, why don't, like, this is the highest rated segment we do other than PTI as a show. Like, basically it's like the joke of like, why don't we build the whole plane out of the black box? And they're like, okay, we can. And like, I mean, you've seen in the different sports media pockets, like, okay, you have Simmons and like a lot of the stuff they do at The Ringer, which is like, how can I blend pop culture and sports history and into sports coverage? And now his site, The Ringer, it's like a coaching tree of all the people who are Simmons acolytes. And Stephen A. became so ubiquitous, and Skip Bayless became so ubiquitous for like this performative debate culture, that under ESPN's umbrella, there is absolutely a coaching tree of people who yell cockamamie things that are oftentimes disingenuous for the point of debate. And then you see that, like, I mean, obviously there's a million Barstool impersonators, there's a million Ringer impersonators, and so on and so forth. So it's like, I think that fissure in sports media happened between like TV and the internet, because SEO also has become such, search engine optimization has become such a big thing as stuff becomes direct to consumer. Like, I ask Cam sometimes how he sees stuff and tweets and things like that. The things get populated are the things that are in from ESPN, Stephen A. or Perk's voice. And so it becomes the algorithm starts rewarding the things that perform well. Stephen A.'s voice performs well. So that like really, really splits things into your little pocket. As far as like the two sides of sports media, I don't think that there's much room moving forward for generalist talk. I mean, I'm sure there will be another Pardon My Take or Bill Simmons, people who can cover everything. But right now, I think we're in a space that's like, when it comes to up and coming people, it's like hyper specialized depth and expertise. Like, your niche on the internet, you better be an expert in it. Like, there's not much room without column writing for the generalist, the guy who goes into every locker room, who's been a beat reporter, who's talking about everything, to turn into Tony or Mike or Bill Simmons. That's really hard. Like, I know Pardon My Take has done that, and like, that's out of a Barstool umbrella, and they've turned into their own thing. And like, Big Cat and PFT are incredibly special talents to do that. But like, I don't know the next show that will like really transcend as a generalist sports show.
And you have the sort of sensational personalities, but you also have the nuts and bolts guys like Bill Barnwell, and who do you look for, or who do you look to for real down and dirty, just sports analysis and analytics, and not just the show?
So there are a few things, like, obviously, like, I know Bill really well, and I read his stuff and Zach Lowe's stuff, and they're sort of the godfathers of that genre of putting GIFs and writing 2,000 to 5,000 words on something really specific in sports. For football, I really like a service called Just the Tape. you can check their YouTube channel out, and you can actually. It's not someone breaking down the tape, but it shows you an all 22 for every single draft prospect. So this is the first year I really covered the draft in more depth on our show, Domonique Foxworth Show. You should listen to it. Subscribe after you listen to this podcast. It's the second best podcast on the internet after the show you're listening to right now. But just the tape, it shows you all 22 of the college people and like all of their plays that are of significance this season. So like that stuff's good. I use cleaning the glass for basketball statistics to try and understand basically, impact on the game stuff. And then when I'm reading stuff, Zach Cram's incredible. Rob Mahoney is incredible on basketball stuff. Football, honestly, the amount, like I love Ben Solak. I know he's someone he got roasted for having a bad take on the tape of Josh Allen flipping his hips last year on his last throw in the playoff game. But like in general, he's just excellent, like as good as it can get breaking down tape. And he writes in a really clear and digestible way, because I don't know if you feel this, Cam or Riz, like one of the things people try to make football into rocket science. It's one of the things I appreciate the most about Domonique. They try to be like, whoa, you don't know what you're watching. And objectively, we do. Like, it's not that hard. So it's really nice to have someone who's an expert who can show you the plays from the all-22, but also not talk down to you and make you feel like you're in, AP Calc. It's just like, dude, we're watching the Pats here. It's fine. I think I know that this 3rd and 2 was created by the offensive line.
Yeah. Do you, knowing Danny, growing up with Danny, working with Domonique, working in the professional sports, college sports business, do you feel differently about professional college sports, or do you feel differently about the athletes?
I feel like the athletes are way more normal. Like they're much like, I mean, they're not normal physically. I've never felt less athletic than being around Danny or Domonique, where like things just come incredibly easy for them. I mean, they're much more normal people. Like, yes, they have like developmental differences of like how they like they have way more confidence about being able to do things than normal people. Like they've developmentally haven't had the block of being like, oh, I can't do X, Y, and Z, because those things come very easy to them. But the biggest thing is like, I think we look at a lot of athletes like they're sort of immune to pressure, immune to like chatter, things like that. Or we think of them as meatheads or football geniuses. And like a lot of them are just really normal people who happen to be freakishly athletic. Like, yeah, of course they're very dedicated, but it all starts with them hitting like the genetic lottery in them. But like the most part, so they're just like really normal. Like all of like, I've met now, a couple dozen professional athletes through this stuff, and interacting with them, it's actually rare that they're like dismissive or assholey or think that they're better than you. Like that is more common with a random ESPN talent who thinks they're hot shit than it is a professional athlete who works for ESPN. Those people are just really normal and nice.
I mean, that's good to know. I mean, I've dealt with, and Cam knows, I mean, he's dealt with them too, a lot of professional athletes or collegiate professional athletes in our careers. So we know that it's a little different perspective for us, because we're helping them get better and healing them. So they're very, thoughtful back to us. But it's nice to hear that when they're in a different industry, working in a different career, that they seem to be, doing the same thing and helping out, or, not being, like you said, an asshole or looking down on you, other than those personalities that think they are like the best things in sliced bread, right?
Totally. And like they're regimented and they're coachable too. Like I'm sure that's something from that you guys notice with like giving them rehab exercises, or like sending, like they're gonna do the work, and they're gonna be on time for everything, which is like, Cam knows this. I'm always down to be like, hey, maybe that wasn't your best take. Maybe you want to take that one back. And they're like eminently coachable, for like putting them in a good position to succeed, which is nice. And they're particularly football players. If you have a podcast starting at 9 p.m., they're going to be there 8:50, sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it goes back to I have a post. I don't know if Cam, if you've seen it at my office in Weston, I have a framed picture of Vince Lombardi, and it's just basically the Bible of Vince Lombardi, like his writing that he had done. And basically it says, if you were 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late, and if you're 15 minutes late, it's unacceptable. So athletes, I think, feel that when they know that they need to be there, prepare ahead of time, which is nice that they're always there, always ready. I have a story of So when I was in 2007, I'd helped a colleague of mine cover some Bruins practices while they were. It was the Olympics year, and all the pro hockey players or whoever was going to the Olympics was leaving for Italy, and I had to go and cover some practices up in Wilmington. So I go up and there's a few players that I had to see and do rehab with, and a couple of the guys. I was supposed to be there at 7 a.m, and I get roll in at like 10 minutes to 7, and there's one of the guys is standing there with a coffee, and he's like, "Riz, where you been?" Like, what are you talking about? 10 minutes to 7. He's like, "I've been here since 6:30." Like, they're grinders. Like, that, they want to be there. They want to get their stuff in. They understand it. Like,
oh yeah.
So that's what athletes, they're made, they're cut from a different cloth compared to people that, I mean, even though you think they're giving everything in their life, which a lot of them are, they're very appreciative when you're doing something for them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. 100%.
As far as sports coverage when you were growing up as a kid and what you saw as a kid watching ESPN, how does it differ now in the industry you're in now? What's better? What's worse? Things that you've seen, where you think it's going in the future?
I mean, ESPN is still the biggest fish in the pond, but like that pond's expanded immensely. Like, it's no longer a monolith in the way it was, where before, if you had talent, you wanted to work with ESPN. They had all the best broadcasters. All of like SportsCenter had a lot more personality and mattered a lot more before the internet made those things had get their highlights in a different way. And you had everyone, like, I mean, if you look at ESPN from even when we were growing up, like, I read Simmons religiously, I think from like the beginning of high school on, and like, the writing was, I know Kornheiser and Wilbon were at the Washington Post, which was a huge part of me growing up too, and then ended up at ESPN because I was I grew up in Washington, D.C., and that was my local paper. But like, I don't know if there's a world where a network is going to have everyone like that, where you're going to have Stuart Scott and Scott Van Pelt and Russillo and Le Batard and Simmons and the best broadcast team. Like, that's almost seems impossible. Like, it's going to be really spread out. I wish I had a better answer of the future, because I would definitely bet on one of those micro media companies and join as quickly as possible if I knew which ones are going to pop. But I think that like so much of this is that it's a really saturated market. And like I'm thinking of the last show that really popped that was new, and like that was New Heights, the Kelsey show, which went crazy. And like, that's like so largely because of Travis dating Taylor Swift. Not that
Right.
they're fucking great. Both the Kelsey brothers are so charming and have seemingly limitless stories and have so much chemistry interacting with each other and with Kylie, Jason's wife, on that show, that like, I'm not saying it's not great. It's just like that pop for very different reasons. Honestly, like, where it's going, I think it's just going to be really optimizing a bunch of personal channels. Like, the personalities are going to be the channel. They're going to have their own YouTube pages, create more generalist shows. The one thing that's very noticeable is digital video. For the first time, I think for the last 10 or so years, it's been all about podcasts, and now we're seeing a move to digital video in a way that's really interesting, because the yo-yo towards sort of some TV sensibilities is something that's appealing to the viewer, is coming back. So that would be my big prediction for the next 5 years, is that digital video becomes increasingly important, and people are going to try and get shows direct to the consumer in ways that are new and inventive. And that could be Netflix getting into sports podcasts and having a video component, or people doing it on their own.
What's the hardest thing for an industry leader like ESPN to stay ahead of the game? Like, what are you seeing like in your like fishbowl that to get you guys to the next, like you said, the next big thing? Like, what is it? Is it just the creative minds that are at the think tank trying to figure it out, or are you guys pulling stuff off of like an algorithm to see what's hitting?
I think ESPN, like, for a long, one of the things that was difficult for a long time with talent retention was that television is zero sum. It's not an abundance model. So inherently there's a certain amount of hours in a day, a certain amount of slots to be on, to put someone new on, you have to take someone off. And so you had this door where ESPN would be like, okay, whatever, we can replace them with someone new. That has switched with the internet, where it's an abundance model, and people can do it on their own. But what's interesting, and at least in my theory, I don't run the financials of ESPN over the last 20 years, is that there's just places for people to go independent and just make more money in certain ways now. And I know that's changing. Stephen A. and Pat McAfee are making as much money as anyone in the industry. But my gut is that for a long time, like someone like Bill Simmons or the Pardon My Take guys or Le Batard or Cowherd or Dan Patrick or Rich Eisen going out independently and having, free market like you would in free agency was able to generate significantly more money for them, and they were able to be crown jewels of different networks or gambling companies as sports gambling money as filtered into the media. So they're just suitors that are willing to pay for credibility. That those guys were developed on air, and it's transferable because their fan bases have been with them for, in some of those cases, 20 years. Some of those people have been doing radio shows and podcasts for now since like 2007.
Mm-hmm. Why was McAfee so successful? I mean, he was a punter. He's a big punter. He's a funny guy, but he became incredibly popular over the past few years.
I have no idea. I honestly, like, I don't know if this is ESPN sacrilege. I've never listened to the show. I know he has Aaron Rodgers on there saying crazy shit, and Aaron Rodgers is like, I mean, if you wanted to ask me why Aaron Rodgers is still relevant, I couldn't give you an answer. I mean, he does incredible stuff with guest booking and clearly makes guests really comfortable. Like I've seen clips of him talking to like Caitlin Clark or Nick Saban, or he had LeBron on. And at certain points, the snowball rolling down a hill. Like you make enough of those guests feel comfortable, more people go on your show to say things that they wouldn't say elsewhere. So that's what I got on that. Like he clearly has an ability to be charming in front of a crowd and in front of different people, but that's not a show I have a ton of experience digesting.
Yeah, makes sense. I was just curious because anytime if you turn on college television, he was always there in his tank top and his cowboy hat screaming about something. Yeah. I just remember him punting the ball 15 years ago for the Colts.
Yeah, it just looks like a lunatic. But Cam, that's going to be like you and I with our professional production company, right? That it's going to blow up.
Yeah, but I'm going to wear a shirt with sleeves.
Well, yeah, that's fine. You might need to wear some cowboy boots though.
You'll never catch me in a cowboy hat. Do sports matter as much as they used to? Like, we've got the 4 major sports, and you can even include the MLS. But with our attention so fragmented everywhere, do sports matter like they did 25 years ago? Do they matter more?
Football matters.
What's the deal with viewership, and how are some of these leagues surviving?
Football matters more. Period. It's become like we had like that little period when there was the concussion data and the NFL. We found out the NFL lied to players. We're like, the NFL's bad. It's going to be gone in 10 years. And then we all
just got stronger.
Yeah, we all sort of tacitly were like, okay, these guys now know what they're signing up for. We know what we're signing up for. We're watching the car wreck. And like, I mean, I don't think football has lost a bit. I think the product is better. I think ironically, so. I think that certain sports, like the NBA is in a really weird place now. I know this has been like the ratings discussion, but like the quality of the product overall has actually been hurt by analytics, where like watching a regular season game and guys just jog 3-point line to 3-point line, throwing up 60 threes a game. Sorry to your Celtics. The Sula Bowl is like the grossest version of it.
We'll talk about Tatum later.
Yeah. It's the grossest version of it. But like I don't think the games matter as much for that or for baseball, which has become really regional. Football is ubiquitous. Like I can't imagine, like people know the NFL, they know their teams, they know they watch every single week, and the product, because there's so many moving pieces. It's not the analytics, like everyone just take corner threes. It's not the analytics, like 3 true outcomes in baseball where it's strikeout, fly out, home run. The analytics are like, go for more 4th downs, be more aggressive, throw the ball more. And it's made the game significantly closer to the way that we played Madden as kids. And like, that's great. The viewer, like the product's better than it's ever been. But
don't you think the NFL players are better than they've ever been?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're incredible. Like the depth at all these positions is like, I mean, like, I don't think these guys are better than Brady or Manning or Breeze, like the top quarterbacks. I mean, Mahomes, obviously, Allen, Lamar are ridiculous. They're in that tier. But the average level, those guys are incredible now. Like you don't have slow receivers. You don't have incomplete players. You don't have linebackers who can't drop into coverage. Like the Bucs dropped 350-pound Vita Vea to be a coverage linebacker in spots. Like, can you imagine Tony Siragusa doing that for the Ravens 20 years ago? It would have looked insane. And this guy's just like moving. He's moving well.
Now, do you think the NFL? I mean, the way I look at it is, it seems like the fan just wants to see carnage and gladiators, and that's why football is so successful. Do you think? And, MMA, and they just want to see the biggest hit. They want to see somebody. They want to see the big pass and the big catch, but it seems like you like alluded to a minute ago, like it's a car wreck every single play.
Yeah.
So you think that's what's the driver? Is that the big thing? People just want to see that? Is that they're bloodthirsty almost? It's like that movie Bloodsport.
I think it's
back with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I think it's definitely possible. I also think like football like weirdly fits the attention span now. It's like watch for 4 seconds, you get a break. Like it's so easy to follow up. Like watching it's harder if you want to break down what happened, like how they beat cover 2 here, but like the basic understanding in the TV product. Like, football's better to watch on TV than to go to the game.
Yeah, 100%.
Baseball and basketball are the exact opposite. Like if you can sit close to a basketball game, it's like you don't even notice you have your cell phone in your pocket. You're like, look at these fucking guys. This is unbelievable. But if I'm watching basketball on TV, half the time I'm just scrolling Reddit or Twitter or whatever.
Right.
Where football is just like incredibly easy to watch. And that the hits and the highlights, like there is definitely like a human cockfighting element to it. It'd be crazy. I'd be crazy to deny that that's part of it.
Now, I've never been to an MMA fight, but how is that as far as as a spectator sport? Where does that fall in the realm of professional sports?
I think it's huge. I mean, I'm in that MMA is in my McAfee zone too, where like I get that it exists, but it just feels, that one actually feels too brutal for me. Just seeing someone get like clearly knocked unconscious, do the fencer position, and then get punched in the face like 8 more times till the referee pulls them off. I'm like, this feels a little bit weird to me. It's like less. It certainly seems less artistic than boxing. Because I used to love watching like the big fights back when like Floyd would fight Pacquiao or whatever.
I noticed you've left out one of the 4 major sports. That's the National Hockey League. For those who are unfamiliar, actually, DC has a team. It's the Capitals. If you didn't know, Charlie. So, it's your opinion in the NHL.
I think the NHL is doing better. And it seems like the ratings are up with that. They had the greatest All-Star game transformation of like any league possible. And I thought that the overtime of the rubber match between Canada and the USA, I guess it's the final because they played in the group stage ahead of it, was like up there for one of the most compelling 30 minutes of sports television I can remember. It felt like a NBA Finals Game 7, like when it grinds to a halt, and seeing McDavid come through was like very, very cool. So hockey is honestly, I think, more similar to baseball, where like it's unwatchable on TV in the regular season, but the playoffs are unbelievably intense. Like the anxiety induced by hockey during the playoffs is pretty much unmatched by any sport. Like it feels like the goals are so valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree.
Yeah,
I think it's regional as well.
Yeah, but like I can't imagine sitting down and being like, I'm watching like 82 Caps games this year. Like that's just
people do it.
Oh, I know.
They're diehards. Yeah. It's like watching the Red Sox for 160 games, like, or 62. Like, who does that? Yeah, wait till playoff season comes. That's when the most exciting part of the year is.
Yeah.
Since we hit a little bit on carnage and what happens in sports, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about injury reporting, because I love this. This is like in our wheelhouse, and then the athlete themselves. So we might as well start with Jason Tatum, because, Tatum, as you know, blew out his Achilles the other night, and everybody's like, ooh, what happened? Even in my clinic, where we look at the video the next morning, and I didn't even realize, I didn't watch the game. I didn't realize it was his right foot. Mm-hmm. I looked at his left foot, and it looked like he came off his toe, and he kind of went off the side of his foot. And I'm like, he might have a Liz Frank fracture. Like, I was just looking at it, and then someone goes, no, it's his right leg. And they had a different angle, and we see it, and us as professionals could pick it out like, anything. And then, everybody's speculating. So where do they draw the line in the media to get information and be able to deliver the information? Because I know that the organizations they can only release so much. But is it someone like that's like on the inside that's like, hey guys, listen, this is what the inside scoop is? Or no. How does that work? Are you guys confined to what you can release versus what's really true versus what's fact or fiction?
So maybe Shams or Schefter has more information that we don't know. But
Yeah.
like someone like us, so like you hear rumors from time to time. Like I've worked with Domonique long enough where he's like, hey, this is what's actually going on. This is what's being reported. It could be anything. It could be someone out for something. Is like, actually, this is like a personal issue between so and so and so and so on the team rather than injury. I mean, I think that really has changed with sports gambling becoming legal, where these leagues are really pushing honesty. And you saw that with the 49ers getting fined for the way that they reported Christian McCaffrey's Achilles tendonitis last year. And they said he was going to be ready for week 1. And it totally shifted the betting market on their over-under and stuff like that. So like, honestly, like what gets her in, I think unless you're really in the know with the team or the player, like most of the people in the sports media are taking it as face value because the teams don't want the teams don't want to get fined for the league, the enormous amounts now. That might have been different 10 years ago. But at that point I wouldn't have had, any access to knowing exactly how different it was. I know hockey is a little bit different. And individual sports are very different as well, like the tennis and golf thing, because they can just pull out the tournaments and not explain why. In hockey, you can just say upper body or lower body. But the NFL and the NBA are now so specific about how they report stuff for gambling.
Yeah, because I noticed that in hockey, and Kim, you probably have a lot more to say about this, but they always report it as an upper or lower body injury, like you said, like with hockey. There's never a specific with hockey. And I don't know if it's because of if it's the Players Association that has an agreement with the organization or with the media or how that works, but it always amazes me to hear it. But we have people that we know that, it's sometimes they might give you a little tip here and there, but I think the big thing, it's interesting that, you mentioned Schefter. It's like he always has an inside scoop on everybody, and he's the first one to release everything that comes out. And I'm like, how's that guy get all this information? And it's interesting how he comes out with it, but I think it's like 99.9999% correct all the time.
He does really well. Like he showers with his phone.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Doesn't everybody?
Well, like he's like it's just he is not a second where he's not with his phone in his hand, ready to get information and turn it around. And you see that in tweets, obviously, because they're like during free agency, you could tell that some of them are sent by agents, and it doesn't have like proper punctuation or capitalization. It's like Bartelstein sent this one where nothing's capitalized and he doesn't use periods, and Schefter reposted it. But no, he's pretty good about sourcing his information and backing it up and getting it out quickly.
Yeah, Cam, if you get a call from Charlie, like, hey, what's going on with this White Sox pitcher, man? Like how are you confined by the organization? I'm assuming most people
would say, hey, this is what happened, and
put 500 on the Cubs.
No, of course not. Although they did just lift the Hall of Fame ban for Pete Rose.
Yes, which is amazing. After he died, I mean,
shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, shoeless Joe,
who is a White Sox.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that in sports media, you hear more rumors about personal stuff than you do about the injuries. You hear about rifts and teams, oh, that guy actually got traded because of XYZ. So that's the type of thing. There were an example of that is I don't think any of them were true, but you hear a dozen rumors. When Steph Diggs got traded, it was oh, there's X, Y, and Z rumor about him and Josh Allen. And you hear it's someone calls you, it's this is what really happened. I know so-and-so's agent. And for me, I end up tossing out most of them because I don't think that a lot of the people on sports TV actually have the inside sources to know the people's personal lives. Maybe if you're Charles Barkley or Stephen A. or Simmons, you have a better sense of that because you actually talk to those guys. But that's the stuff you hear more than the injury stuff.
Is there pressure on you, the media, to speculate any of these things to get something out quick, or is it there's too little respect for medical privacy? How does that work?
I actually think people hate when gas bags speculate about injuries. Is my take on it. Because they're you're not a fucking doctor. Right. I can lie. Right. And I even think people a lot there's that Twitter guy, Dr. Chow, who's vulgus mechanism ACL torn. I could tell from 7,000 feet away from this still frame. And you're okay, Chow. Whatever, dude.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Twitter doctors now. Yeah. Even amateur Twitter doctors who never went to medical school or did residency.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
But so I think that when you hear someone who's on a sports TV show trying to identify an injury, they just come off like such a D-bag that like generally I advise against like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't say that you think it's this injury. You really have no clue.
How much of the content on these websites and apps is just fluff? Because if you log on to ESPN in the middle of the day, you know, half the articles are Celtics are, quote, disappointed by their effort, or Shedeur Sanders is elated to be in Cleveland. I mean it's all obvious, right?
That's just AP stuff. Those are just AP stories that are it's just an evolving front page. Like unless it's like the center scroll or something that's written up by like a real reporter, the AP stuff is just, oh, here's your daily digest of news for the last 4 hours. And the news cycle just moves faster now. So you want to keep up with the things that are at the top of your news feed and give you the AP write up on that. So like, I guess it's fluff, but it's more just like, not just filler. It's just like, it's an expanded tweet.
Gambling is huge now, right?
Yeah.
We have the extrapolation of the Barstool umbrella. Now, in the past, Roger Goodell was totally against gambling. Obviously, now he's for gambling, completely two-faced, as we know. FanDuel and DraftKings are everywhere.
Yeah.
How does it influence sports going forward? We talked a little bit about injury, but
I mean,
does it affect your media coverage? Because on these shows, you'll see these amateur people put up lines and then make a prediction that the Chiefs are going to win by 30. And does any of that really matter?
Yeah, I actually do think it matters. I think handicapping matters. So there's a lot here because this is broken down a lot for the media stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's some of these betting people or quote unquote sharps who are like, I can win you money. I'm up this amount of units. Most of the time, they're full of shit. Some of the people are awesome, like the people who do daily fantasy and like. This is when you get like in a deep silo of nerd stuff. And you're like, I'm on a Twitch stream with this guy who's showing me that he's up 100 units this year betting on like this type of stuff. That's not really my shit. And I also think it's like harder to generally win in sports gambling now that it's more ubiquitous. Like I had a coworker who supplemented his income from like 2015 to 2020 by being early on daily fantasy sports, and he was like excellent about it, and he's incredible at fantasy sports, and he's like daily fantasy and like day-to-day betting now is impossible because everyone has the same information. There's so much of it. So that stuff, like, yeah, it's a huge suck for like kids shouldn't be having access to bet all this stuff. It's a gateway to like getting your debt, like running up a massive tab on your dad's credit card if you're betting on FanDuel and thinking you're going to win. But as far as sports talk, like using odds and perceived odds in handicapping to help the analysis of games is incredibly helpful. Like it's basically saying like, okay, if I want to defend an argument or build on an argument, like bookmakers and prediction models, a lot of this are LLM models at this point that are building outcomes for this, no different than, you know, a hedge fund would for like a long position stock. If they're handicapping the Chiefs as having a perceived 64% chance of winning the AFC Championship game against the Ravens or the Bills or whoever, that's an important data point that should be brought into the analysis and being like, is the data what you're seeing? Like this is one of the things I ask Domonique all the time. I'm like, here are the perceived odds. Does that match up with how you look at the tape? And if it's yes, that's something that's important to be like, I actually think that they have a better chance to win than that. If it's less, or like, I don't agree with this X, Y, and Z, it's like, it's a really good conversation starter.
Does that translate into the locker rooms as well?
Oh, no. Oh, that's the third bucket of that. I thought for players, we're going to have a massive gambling scandal at some point. Like the NFL has really quietly suspended people, and they're lucky that it hasn't been the biggest people. Someone's going to get popped for betting on this in an incredibly negative way. Like it's going to be Connie Hawkins or was it the BU basketball team that had like a bunch of people suspended like the night.
I think it was. Yeah.
Like we're going to get to that spot where like, you know, someone is going to have a suspension that really derails their career because they are match fixing. And we've seen that whether it's Juventus or BU basketball or Connie Hawkins, who I guess eventually was exonerated, but like it's someone who would have been the best NBA player of the 1950s and 60s before Russell Wilt, and like he didn't get to play because of sports gambling and racketeering. Like that is very on the table for some dipshit who's like, I guess we saw it with Jonte Porter, who is intentionally fading his own bets and checking out of games is going to prison. But there will be a big name person at some point in the next 10 years that makes us rethink, whoa, we should not have given athletes with an immense amount of money access to leverage this. And like, we almost saw that last year with Shohei Ohtani. Like, I know it's his translator, but like, there's millions of dollars. And if that had derailed the best baseball player since Babe Ruth, like, everyone I think would have taken a step back and been like, holy shit, I'm not sure this is a great idea.
Well, I always wonder, like, if when it's gonna, like, the foot's gonna drop with a lot of these. You know, you think of officiating and the outcomes of games, and people are scratching their heads like, how did this game go to a game 7 when it should have been over in game 4? Like, you look at this stuff and you always wonder, and you like you said, something's gonna happen. But I think the Ohtani thing was huge. Like, it was just a big eye opener for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
Me not being a gambler, like, I'm like, wow, that could be easy for a pro athlete, like, or someone that's actually in charge of the outcome of a game. So for me, I'm just like, wow, this could be very easy. And I can't understand how it hasn't been exposed at this point, when there's so much influence and so much ease of getting that outcome, that it hasn't been revealed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only saving grace is the star players in these sports now are making so much money, and I know that there will be athletes, and rightfully so, are like, we're still not getting a big enough share of the pot considering what owners are making. But like, I mean, NBA players are going to start making $70-75 million a year. Like, the top guys, the bottom guys are going to be around 12, and like, at a certain point, risking that for a parlay becomes insane. But I mean, it will happen at some point, and probably not in basketball again, but like in another sport where the finances aren't the same. But like, that's the only guardrail, is that you're hoping that these guys have too much to lose.
Do you think refereeing is worse than usual, or do you just think we have more information?
We have more information. Like, it's certainly not worse than the Tim Donaghy NBA. Like if you go back and look at, I mean, obviously there's the famous Kings stuff, but if you look at like the 2006 finals, when we were actually fans, Cameron, like when Dwayne Wade won his first title, this is not really a hot take here. That shit was fucking disgusting. And I can't say it was fixed, but it was, if it wasn't, then it was the worst refereeing you'll ever see. Like, Wade getting 25 free throws a game to flip a series when he's not getting touched is insane. And we know it's refs who are tied to Donaghy and stuff. So like, I generally think it hasn't gotten any worse. And like, Hawkeye's incredible. Like, the Hawkeye they'll bring to football, like that type of stuff should make reviews better and better. Like, the sport that's gotten it the best and used it the best is tennis, where it's just like, it's not seamless. It's on clay surfaces. And I know they're a tenth of a millimeter is the margin of error. And like, so there are some calls that are wrong, but like, that stuff is going to start going to hockey. It's already in soccer. It's going to come into the NFL with first downs and stuff. Basketball with out of bounds, or who touched it last. Like, that technology is going to make reffing better and better.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the playoffs last year, watching the NFL, I'm like, how do they get the ball placement wrong with the technology that's out right now? It's like, how does this even happening where it was clearly over the line and now it's behind the line? Like, where did there's 17 referees in the field, and you got Ed Hockley in the booth. Like, what the hell's going on here? So it'll be interesting to see kind of the future with the, Markowitz stuff is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Cost the Bills a trip to the Super Bowl. It's crazy.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, Kravitz. Who's your favorite current athlete and why?
The one I like to watch the most, or the one I'm most interested in their story?
One of each.
The one who I currently enjoy watching the most is probably Stephen Curry still. Like, I think it's like it's the most like unique thing that he's still doing this. And it's the most I mean, I don't know when we'll see. We're going to see a series of impersonators, but the stuff he can do with the basketball, no one is even. I mean, I know Jokic is incredibly skilled, but it's different. Like, what Curry does, he's the most skilled basketball player in NBA history, and it's not particularly close. And like, him being able to be a star player amplifies everyone around him. Like, the games when you see Steph get hot, I still think that's the best show in sports. The story that I'm most interested in right now is probably the development of Carlos Alcaraz, the tennis player. He's 22 and he's, number 2 in the world. Just because he's a total artist. He's like, the most talented guy since Federer. He's probably, if you had like to pick the athletic package of anyone across sports, of like you would build an athlete that could do anything, he's at the top of the list of those guys. But there's just like a complete wildness to him that like he will do anything on any shot. He has not been tamed by like making the smart decision yet. That I think is like, it's spectacular. Like seeing him play on grass or clay, like he is going to do something that no other tennis players even ever thought of doing. And he's on track to be like long term. It'll be interesting to see if someone who is that wild in their on-court decision making, not, it seems like a totally normal person off the court, like his talent wise, he should be the best player ever. He should be there with Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. But it's a question of like, can you be that if you aren't like an efficiency monster who's trying to kill everyone in your path? So that's like an amazing, like over the next 10 years, that story will become more and more significant.
You know way too much about fucking sports. My head's gonna explode, I think. Cam warned me before we got on this call. Like, he's like, you're gonna be amazed. I'm like, I don't even know who that tennis. I don't even know anything about tennis. And like, now I want to watch tennis because you're talking about this guy.
You'd love it. It's like he's got the Curry Tiger Woods thing where you're like, I didn't even know it was possible to try that.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I do want to talk about college, but I'll leave that out for now because I have some questions about what your thoughts are on college sports. But Cam, do you have a follow-up to that about his favorite player?
Who's your favorite athlete ever, Kravitz? And who's the most overrated athlete of all time?
Ooh, I like that question. I like it.
Favorite athlete ever?
I like the overrated one. I want to hear the
discussion we've been having for 20.
I mean, the most overrated athlete ever is Kobe. No question.
5 championships?
Yeah, but his fans think he is LeBron or Jordan, and he's fucking not. Like, you're the best player on one finals team, one of your 5 championships. And like, you played the game the wrong way, and now you have all these sycophants who are like, Mamba mentality means like jacking up shots. And like, that's not, Mamba mentality was like being a ruthless competitor, and obviously he's an all-time great player, but the concept of, you're gonna think I'm nuts for this. Cam probably knows this. I keep a list of how I rank the 23 best basketball players of all time, and I have Kobe at 12th on that list.
I'm going to ask you another question after that, but I love it. I want to see the list. You got to send it to me.
Definitely. And then, favorite athlete of all time? Let's go Jaden Daniels. It's changed my life.
Oh, come on.
Jaden Daniels.
All right, Charlie, you
guy.
Charlie, you have to tell Riz the story. I know. So Charlie has this story. It went viral during the NFL playoffs this winter, but you have to share the story with all of us.
Okay, so I'm flying to New Orleans for Super Bowl Media Week, and I'm at DCA and I'm working, and I'm sitting there. I got the flight pretty early. I start boarding my flight, and I look at the people boarding first class, and I see this dude. He's wearing like all black sweats with his hood up, and he's got like a shiesty, like one of the things pulled up over his face. And he's got a yellow Louis Vuitton Commander's bag, and he's like 6'4", 180. And I was like, it's fucking Jaden. I know it. So I board the plane, and he's sitting in the front row first class. His mom's next to him. He's got the shiesty pulled up, and I point at Jaden as I board him, like, Jaden, to his mom. His mom gives me the thumbs up, like, don't make a scene. We're at DC. Like, this guy's, the best football player in the history of your franchise. And so I just lean over. I'm like, Jaden, you changed my life. And he bursts out laughing. He gives me the thumbs up. And I don't think anything of it. I get off the plane. His mom gives me their media contact. And so I don't think anything of it. And my phone starts blowing up the Thursday of Super Bowl week, and Jaden had gone on McAfee, and they asked him what the funniest fan interaction he ever had was. And he was like, well, on the plane down here, some random guy came up to me and said that I saved his life.
I love it.
I was like, all right, that's fine. I was like, I saved your life just as good. So you saved my football life, Jaden.
That's great. I love it. Let me ask you this question. LeBron, Jordan. Everybody debates this.
You're torturing me.
Yeah. LeBron or Jordan?
I've gone back and forth on this many times. It's LeBron.
Charlie,
Really? I'm not a LeBron guy. I'm a Jordan guy. Sorry.
No, I think Jordan's got the greatest highlights. He did more in less time, but like the degree of difficulty in the league for LeBron is so high.
Now,
he's the most complete player ever.
Well, what would you say if Jordan was playing now?
He'd be
how would he compare?
I think he would. I mean, in the current NBA, I think he'd average 40 a game.
Yeah.
For sure. I also think that LeBron would demolish the 80s without the hand checking and like the way that it was played closer to the basket. Like, ironically, I think both of them would have been better in each other's eras.
Yeah.
Which is, but like, I mean, it's so crazy because they're so clearly the two best players ever. Like, when people try and put someone else in the debate, I'm like, nah, man. Like, I watched the whole LeBron experience. It's a joke how good he is, and like what he did in 2016, and then the 2018 playoff run, even though they lost, like his highs outside of the Jordan stuff, which I wasn't totally cognizant of while it was happening. Like the LeBron highs are a joke of how good he was. It still is. I mean, he's 40.
It's amazing. I can't believe he's been in the league as long as he's been in the league, but it's nuts. How has the NIL helped or hurt college sports? This has been a huge debate. We talk about it all the time at work, and I have just to give you a little, what my perspective is that I think athletes should get. Always felt like they were getting an education as part of their like signing for a team or for a college, but I also see how much money the colleges are making off that athlete. So I kind of see both sides of it. But what's your thought on that? Is it better or worse for the NCAA?
Worse for the NCAA, better for the players. Like I'm glad that these players were not doing the sham that this is amateur sports and the guys can't get paid. The downside is it sucks for the fans. Like rosters can't be built. There's no continuity. Right. There's no rivalries. We've also sacrificed everything for the cash cow of college football. And in doing so, like these mega conferences have made college football worse. It's like the product objectively and the transferring, it's impossible to follow. We've bastardized college basketball to the point that like the tournament, no one knows who's on what team. No, it's way harder to follow. And we did it in the name of college football. Like, we're going to make this ultra competitive product. And I thought this year of the expanded playoff was like the lowest quality college football playoff I can remember. Part of that is bad odds that there wasn't a dynamic quarterback this year. Period in the playoff. Like, it's like, oh, let's get excited for Drew Aller and Will Howard, which no one's going to. It's obviously different if you have Caleb or Jaden or Johnny Manziel or any great college quarterback. But no, I think from the viewer perspective, the NIL's totally fucked it up. I mean, I don't know how you totally you can't get the toothpaste back in the tube and the kids could be played. But there have to be some rules so you can actually have a carryover roster year over year so that there's a decent product for fans. Cause like now it's impossible to follow.
But do you think the action, at least in college football, has degraded? I mean, the expanded college football playoff, yes, there were some bad games, but there were some excellent, exciting games, putting, teams like Ohio State or the Texas ASU game was sensational.
Sick.
Right?
Yeah, it was a good game.
You're taking, Arizona State, who no one in New England knows anything about, and you're putting Cam Scatabo on a national stage and Quinn Ewers and all these guys and making it a sensational event. Even though you may not know the names of the players, do you think the quality is worse?
Yeah, I think quality is worse because there's no team building year over year. Like, if someone doesn't get on the field, they just leave. There's fewer program identities, fewer rivalries. Like, I think that in general, like, there's going to be exceptions to this, and like the good games are going to be great because there are super teams and super rosters. But yeah, I think the aggregate, the quality's gone down because of NIL. And I should say it's because of NIL. It's because of transfer. It's because of the portal.
The portal. Yeah.
The NIL, like the paying the players, like, great. Pay them as much as you want to. Like, it's the portal. It's the way that you can just bounce at any point if you are just trying to maximize getting on the field or earnings and that stuff. And I don't know what the fix is. I don't want guys to be stuck. Like, the coaches can leave whenever. So I don't have like a solution for it, or I'm sure the NCAA would have thought of it already. But yeah, there's no traditional team building in college sports anymore at all, across the board.
I think there was a great write-up, I think, is why Saban left football, is because him and his wife, and I could be wrong on this story, but from what I heard was the reason why he left college football is because his wife and him used to take the freshmen in and then bring them in and they would mentor them as they came in. And that was their thing. They wanted to coach them throughout their whole career and make them young men and have them have value, right? And understand kind of what it's like to be, part of a family when they're away from a family. And then this happened. And that's one of the reasons I heard that he was getting out. Now, Charlie, you probably have better information, but that's one of the reasons why I heard he was leaving.
Oh,
and I could see that happening with other coaches where they don't have that ability to mentor and coach.
I think that like Jay Wright, Nick Saban, Coach K, let's be honest. Part of it is that their advantage was gone. They had the most money to pay kids under the table, and that part was gone. But I do think like the game changed on them, and Saban and Coach K were like, "We're getting out before we look like dinosaurs."
Yeah.
So I do think it's part of it.
Charlie, I know it's getting late on the East Coast and everyone's got to wrap it up, but I do have to ask you one final question. What's going to happen this year? UNC college football.
I don't think Belichick coaches a game.
Wow.
I think the buyout after June 1 being $1 million, I don't think he coaches a single game.
Why do you think that is going to happen?
I think that he didn't get hired to any NFL team because of the embarrassment of the situationship with Jordan Hudson. And I think that the amount of bad press that he's going to continue to bring as this story continues to unspool is going to be something where whether it's Bill or the program, they're like, we're good here.
But the guy has survived, devil's advocate and biased, obviously, but the guy has survived 25 years of bad press.
It's true.
But that's your hot take, Cam, right there.
Okay. We'll take it to the bank. Charlie Kravitz, absolutely sensational as always. We are so lucky to have you and to know you. And I can't wait to keep watching your career skyrocket to the top. Thank you for taking some time to join us. You're the man. I love you, buddy.
That was the best.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Sports Medicine Podcast. Follow us on social media and check out our website.
The information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Please consult a licensed healthcare provider for guidance related to your specific situation. We'll see you next week.